Hi, my name is Rudolph, and I'm one of the many music teachers who find suddenly themselves not being able to teach in person. And I have a piano studio of about 35 students or so, and I've never taught online before. And for the last 3 days, I have spent researching and trying to set up my studio for remote lessons. It's been quite a challenge. But I think I've figured out a pretty good way of teaching, at least for now. And I just wanted to share it with you. And hopefully it will save you some time, maybe even a little bit of money, not buying things you don't need. And hopefully you can just use the phone or the computer you already have at home. My hardware is pretty old. I've been using my wife's old iPhone, which is a Model 6 with a big crack in the screen, and that phone was stored in a shelf for a couple of years, and now we've pulled it out and I've been using it because I switched to Android a little over a year ago, but most of my students didn't. They're still using FaceTime, and I did some testing at home, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, also Google Hangouts, and it seemed like the sound and the video worked on FaceTime the best. And since my students already have iPhones, I thought I'll just pull out that old iPhone 6 and use it, and it's been going pretty well. I also figured out a way to hook it up to my computer, which is a 8-year-old MacBook Pro. So at least I can watch my students on a larger screen. And also I was able to connect the computer to speakers. So I don't have to listen to the phone's speakerphone, which is not an easy way to listen to music. So let's take a little tour. I also wanted to talk about a couple budget options. If you're really short on funds, you can just set your phone on a simple tripod. This is just like a $20 tripod from Amazon for the phone. And if you have an iPad, then you can also use this kind of setup for your lessons. It's a simple stand, also about $25. I will also put a link on that, and you can use this setup. Which I don't think it's an ideal way to teach piano, because I prefer for my students to see exactly where my hands are on the piano and which fingers I use on which particular key. I just think it's much more helpful. So here's the tour of my audio and video setup. First of all, I'm using a microphone stand, which I already had at home, and I just had to put some extra weights on it. So the weights are not just because I was working out. Hopefully I will be doing more of that, but because that microphone stand really needs it, or otherwise it just tips over. And so here you can see my whole microphone stand, and I already had this extension arm, and it works extremely well with placing your iPhone right where you want it. And it has 2 adjusters, so you can adjust which way the phone is pointing. It can be pointing down on the keys, or it can be pointing to the music. And also you can adjust it up or down. And here is the phone. And as you can see on the screen, you can see about 3.5 to 4 octaves of piano. And if I'm showing something to my students, they will be able to see it and hear it, obviously. So the first day when I was teaching the lessons, that's all I had was this. And I did not have any speaker set up or my computer. And it worked fine, but I got really tired because I had to stare at that little tiny screen for about 3.5 to 4 hours, and just listening through the phone speaker for the sound. I was able to understand pretty well if students were making any mistakes, but it was very tiring. So a step up from that would be if you can connect your phone, the audio output, to some speakers. then you will definitely hear much better sound quality. And I had these speakers at home, and the Bluetooth connection does not work, because if you connect the Bluetooth speakers to the phone, then the microphone wouldn't work. So you need to connect it with a wire, and make sure that the wire has these 2 black lines, not the 3 ones, because if you have the 3 black lines, then the phone will think that you have also a microphone, and then it will disconnect the phone's microphone. But 2 days later, I figured out a way how to connect the lightning cable from the phone to my old MacBook. Here's one more setup I wanted to show you, which I personally haven't used it because I just got this clamp in the mail. I ordered it on Amazon after the first day of teaching with an iPhone, and I was just pretty desperate, and I didn't know yet how to do the iPhone, how to connect the iPhone to the computer. So this clamp you can also mount on your extension arm, and it will hold the iPad, which gives you a bigger screen when your student plays to you via FaceTime or Skype. It will not be as hard for you to see them compared to an iPhone. And you can see the screen shows about 2.5 octaves of the keyboard. And obviously the higher you lift the iPad, the more of the piano you can see, but it's harder for you to see the screen. So then you have to stand up and sit down every time when you demonstrate something on a piano. So this is a little bit tricky. But I can picture somebody working with just an iPad like that for a long time. That would be fine. I would still plug the iPad to speakers with your audio cable, because listening to the speakerphone on an iPad for hours is very difficult. And right now I'm kind of running the footage from my phone to the iPad, so you can see what a student would see. I'm demonstrating something on a piano for my student. They can see it pretty well. Now I will show how to connect the iPhone to your computer. First, open a Finder window and go to the applications. And then here you will find all your applications in alphabetical order. Find QuickTime Player, double click it. And right now, next to the Apple sign, you will see it says QuickTime Player. On the right side of that, there is a file menu. Click on that, and the very first option, New Movie Recording. Click on it. It will open the window, and this window captures information from your computer's camera and computer's microphone, and you need to change that to your phone. So right here next to that red button, there's a little menu. Click on that and switch the camera to the phone, and also make sure that you switch the sound to the phone as well. When it says microphone, switch it to the phone. Otherwise, the sound is not coming from the phone into the computer. And if you'll be watching a video on a computer but listening to the sound from the phone, your video will be lagging behind. And that is very confusing. You cannot teach lessons like that. Don't forget to change the volume on the screen right here within the app. Because if you forget to turn up this volume, there's not going to be sound coming through the computer. And only after that you can adjust the volume on your keyboard. But without this volume, you will not be getting any sound. It's only the feed which you're getting from your student is sideways, just like this. So the way you work around that, you need to click on the computer keyboard, Option and Command keys at the same time, hold them down, then go with your mouse or a trackpad to System Preferences, click on that, and then click on Display. And then there's a hidden menu which pops up only if you use those two buttons on a keyboard. It's under Rotation. If you click on those arrows, it will give you an option to rotate the whole computer screen 90 degrees, which you do. And then the trackpad or the mouse gets very confusing to use, but try to figure it out. And then you need to push this confirm button, otherwise it reverts back to the regular way. Now when everything is sideways, you have to repeat the whole step with the QuickTime player. So you go, you try to find the QuickTime player, you click on that, and now you can see the picture is the way we want it, landscape mode. Again, you need to make sure you pick with that little arrow your phone as a camera and also as a microphone. Don't forget to turn up the volume. And the last little bit, you can click on this little green dot here, and then your feed will be your full screen. So when your student pulls you back, you will see their picture on the whole screen. When it comes to the student setup, I've just told them in the worst case, they can just put the phone at the end of their keyboard and they should be okay with that. If they have an iPad, they can do the same. You can put an iPad at the end of the keyboard, and I was still able to hear them and see them. It is a little bit hard for me to understand exactly which fingerings they're using, and sometimes the sound has a tendency to bounce back, so it's a little bit harder to tell. I've been advising them to use a tripod for the phone or the iPad. So all of my students, I asked them to get either a tripod for an iPhone or a stand for their iPad, and then they are facing the screen to themselves so they can see me well, they can get my directions, and I can see their hands very well, so it's easy to tell if they're doing the right fingerings, the right notes, and so on. And the sound quality also is better compared to the phone just sitting at the end of the keys. And for them, it's much easier to work with an iPad because they can see me really well. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found this information helpful. It took me about 4 days to figure this thing out, and I was lucky enough I had a lot of equipment already at home. And I'm still waiting for a couple of cables to arrive to make it even more comfortable. But it's been working now pretty well. I'm sure a lot of musicians, a lot of teachers are really struggling to figure out how to proceed. We're just so used to teaching one-on-one in person, and it is very hard to teach online suddenly. I was surprised how much more prep time it takes to teach online. You have to make a copy of the student's music. You want to write fingerings ahead of time. You want to send them those fingerings so that you don't spend half of your lesson asking them to write down fingerings. Especially if they're younger students, it's just not feasible. So you really need to prep. And I had to make a little folder for each student where I write down all the assignments so I know what I actually asked them to do. And I have their music in each folder, and I mark everything I tell them. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to remember, did I tell them to play the fourth finger on that note or the fifth? So it takes much more prep. But I'm afraid this is going to be probably for the next 2-3 months like this. So let's try to help each other, and I hope I was able to help a little bit. Please leave some comments below. Okay, best of luck to everyone. Bye.